Fundamental problem today in India is that people think that if I read from a book and translate it and then complete the chapter and write the answers to the questions at the end of the chapter and students copy that answers and I ask the same question in an exam and students answer, learning has happened. Now to break the myth ke boss, this is not learning. Ultimately board exam, comparative exam, life mein fat legi. You got to have learning which is where the child can independently think and express his thoughts in writing. That's really learning. No? I mean, you opened a school for really two reasons. There could be one or both. One is you thought school is a great business, so I will set up a nice building and stuff and grow. Second is you were wanting to provide great education and also make money. Ultimately, the way to make money in schools is to provide great learning. There is no direct way. But one thing you want to remember is that your name should never be discussed. You should always be an automatic choice. And it hit me that it's a great point, right? You've got to have your performance at a level where it's never a question.
Today we have Sumeet Mehta, the co-founder and CEO of EdTech Unicorn Lead School. With over 3,000 plus partner schools, Lead School is reshaping India's schooling landscape through tech-based solutions to improve the entire schooling value chain from curriculum to teaching. From leading Zee Learn to transforming Indian education, Sumit's journey is defined by creating impact. Join us as we explore Sumit's journey as well as how Lead School empowers over 1 million students and 25,000 teachers. Welcome to the podcast, Sumit.
Thanks, Aviral.
So, Sumit, we'll start with a rapid fire. Coffee with Karan has seasons, we don't. I keep saying this. So, the first one is, if you could be a professional in any other field unrelated to your current work, what would it be and why?
I don't know whether politics is unrelated, but I would love to be the education minister of this country. There's a lot to be done on the government school side. So, yeah, I think that would be
Nice.
interesting.
So, it's kind of related politics.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if it
Hmm.
is completely unrelated, then I think I would be a choreographer. I used to love
Choreographer.
doing that. Yeah.
Do you still dance?
I mean, not in front of other people now, but yeah, I think on campus I used to. I
Uh,
choreographed a fashion show at IMA and
wow.
this is 25 years back now. Yeah.
We'll go to IMA next. What was the hardest subject and what was the easiest subject? And unfortunately, because you run an edtech company, you'll have to answer this question.
The hardest subject I think was Quant 2,
Okay.
and the easiest one was organizational behavior. I love that subject.
Easiest because you liked it, not because it may have been necessarily easy.
Yeah, I think my basic learning in life is that what you love becomes easy.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Um, what is the best and worst thing about being an engineer in India?
The best thing is people think your career is secure.
Hmm.
The worst thing is there are too many of us.
That's fair. That's fair. Um, FMCG or consulting?
FMCG any day. I think any operating role versus consulting.
Why?
I just love the experience of doing something and then seeing its impact versus advising someone and not knowing what happened.
Hmm. What would you advise yourself from 25 years ago?
Uh, Start doing what you love earlier.
Hmm. And when did you come to this realization?
Actually, not too late. I would say. I mean, a lot of my batchmates say I began early, but I still feel every year not doing what you love is a waste of life. So I began in 2007.
Hmm.
That's 8 years out of campus.
Hmm.
Could have started earlier.
And can you talk about what is, I know it's a rapid fire, but this one's an interesting one. How do you define what you love?
Well, I mean, I think different people have defined it. The concept of flow, you understand, but to me, it is that I would do it even if I'm not earning any money.
Hmm.
That's the work. I mean, it's productive work that you would do even if you're not earning anything.
That is fair. I absolutely agree with that definition as well. I think something you would do if no one paid you to do is something you love?
Yeah. In fact, I think I distinctly remember because most of our decisions have been on walks between me and Smita. So this was a walk in this small town called Akkalkot near
Hmm.
Sholapur.
Hmm.
We have one of our school there. And I remember both of us talking in 2012 that even if we don't earn any money here on, are we okay doing this for life? And we said, yeah, I think we would love doing it. And that's how Lead was born.
Oh, that's awesome. I think practically the question to ask is, if you don't earn money ever and you still have to do it, how do you live in a big city? But I do agree. I think most of us have that privilege of being able to make the decision. We still don't make it. So I agree. And finally, on the rapid fire, what is one truth you deeply believe in, which very few people agree with you on?
Well, a lot of people have told me that you can't scale a profitable business with schools in India because
Hmm.
a lot of people in schools are not necessarily above board. But I feel that's colored by like 3 to 4%, and a lot of school owners are there actually for the right reason. So I
Hmm.
believe we can build a large, impactful, profitable business in school edtech, but not many people agree with me.
So you believe that there is a misnomer and misconception about schools in India to a large extent, and
About school
I see.
owners, yeah. About
Yes,
school owners, yeah.
I think we all who are not in the system probably have that bias as well. That
Yeah.
everything is a little funny. Uh, like you said, not our board, but awesome. Sumit, would love to talk about your journey from the early days. Where did you grow up? What were your early influences, if any influences that made you decide to start your own company? And then maybe you can talk us through till IMA. We can talk a little bit about that as well.
Well, I was born in Pathankot. It's a small town in Punjab,
Hmm.
and both my parents are teachers. And my dad was like a maverick teacher. My mother was a teacher in the school I studied. So I was actually resentful of the fact that my mother is a teacher in the school I'm studying because we really don't get much freedom. But I think it was helpful to have role models at home. So
Hmm.
my father, I think my early memories are sitting at the dining table. He would ask me, "क्या पढ़ रहे हो आजकल?"
Hmm.
Fractions. He would tear the roti and say, "Half क्या होता है? ये one है, ये half
Yeah.
है."
Yeah.
Uh, so basically, he was genuinely fond of teaching, and he would not miss an opportunity to kind of bring in an application. Like evenings, summers in Pathankot, we would be sitting at the terrace, and he would be like, "Acha atlas leke aao."
Hmm.
So we'll get the atlas, and all three of us, all three siblings, will play a game. So he would name a city, and whoever found it faster would win. And so these kind of things, I there was a lot of fun learning at home. And I remember I used to go out with him, and wherever we used to go, somebody or the other would stand up, come rushing and touch his feet. Okay, sir, I was your student 15 years
Wow.
back, 20 years back. It must have left an impression in my mind because I just thought that's fantastic. Like, people remembering him 20 years later
Hmm.
as somebody who had made an impact on their life. Yeah, so till 10th, I was in Pathankot. Then for 2 years, I went to an even smaller place called Talwada in Punjab. So that was till 12th. Then I went to engineering college, Punjab Engineering College, Chandigarh. I think that was like one big spaceship for me when I went to Punjab Engineering College, because till then, till 12th, I was a fairly, you know, I used to do well in studies. I used to do well in extracurriculars. So I would say like fairly well celebrated student in my college. So I never had to fight for acceptance or
Hmm.
opportunities. When I went to Punjab Engineering College, there were a lot of students who had come from Delhi or Chandigarh, and we had gone from the small town. So for the first few months, I experienced a sense of exclusion.
Hmm.
They used to call us Khulya Penta wale, because
What
we
does
used
that
to.
mean?
Khulya Penta wale in Punjabi means stitched trousers, those loose
Ah.
stitched
Okay.
trousers,
Okay.
because we had never bought jeans or these kind of
Ah.
clothes.
Okay.
And so there
So
was this.
it was a small town
Yeah,
kind of
small town
thing.
versus
Yeah.
metros and large towns. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
So there was this. I mean, some of these moments are very real for me. So there was
Hmm.
this invitation which came from Punjab University for a declamation contest. So I put
Hmm.
up my hand that I want to go, and somebody turned back and said, "Oi, तेरे को ये आता है करना?" Uh,
Oh.
And I was like, "Kyo?" So there was then an internal thing. Then finally, I think the prof gave sent both of us,
Hmm.
uh, and I came back. I think I won the second prize in the university, so I came back with the trophy. So when I came back
Hmm.
in the trophy, the 60 students in our class, I was doing electrical engineer. I sensed that they were looking at me differently after that.
Hmm.
So having to earn your stripes or acceptance was a very new experience, but it also left an impression in my mind that students from small towns are kind of at a back foot
Hmm.
because we don't have that much awareness. We are socially also a little awkward. We dress differently. So there is a stereotype that we're not good enough. And
Hmm.
sometimes we accept that as reality. Uh, and thankfully, I didn't. I don't know why, but there was this fighter spirit. I didn't. And it held me in good stead. So those were 4 years. And after that, Punjab Engineering College was a lot of fun. I mean, I was mostly doing extracurriculars and all of that stuff. And then I went to IMA, and the whole thing repeated itself because IMA was mostly people from IITs, the St. Stephen's, Xavier's, all of these, right? So, and this started all over again when I went to IMA because in
Hmm.
IMA, most people come from IITs, Xavier's, Stevens, and
Hmm.
stuff, right? So, on the first few days, people would meet each other and give a high five that, oh, we were in the same GD group, we were in the
Hmm.
same interview, and I had taken this IMS correspondence course, hota tha, patli si booklet, right?
Ha.
Uh, so I think and then basically the whole thing about section and then talent night and all of that stuff went through. uh, and again I got acceptance because talent night may I captained my section, we won, and after that it was okay. Till then it was a
Hmm.
pain to just get acceptance in IMA. And basically I think that's really the repeated pattern I saw.
And how did you make the call to go to IMA? Because you said you were from a small town. PEC itself was a lot of exposure to you, and you, as a fresher, joined IMA as well, right? If I'm not
Yeah.
wrong. So how?
That's a weird story. I mean, it's a weird story because it also tells you how these decisions are so random.
Yes,
Uh,
correct.
I went to PEC with the ambition that I'm going to try for civil services, and
Oh,
that was the reason also because of which I took electrical engineering because it's a
okay.
subject, and my dad was also very keen that I should do civil services. Then, in my second year of college, I started participating in extracurriculars.
Hmm.
So, one of the senior group who was doing really well in dumb charades and Pictionary and declamations and debates, they were all preparing for CAT.
Oh.
So, I was like, this looks cooler. And then when I started preparing for civil services, there was this really thick general studies book.
Huh.
And I remember distinctly, I went to the PC library to study and I fell asleep with that general studies book. So I was like, ये मेरे से नहीं होगा, and
Huh.
I want to go for CAT. So I wrote, उस समय हम letters लिखा करते थे. So I wrote a letter to my father saying that I know I wanted to do civil services, blah blah blah, but now
Oh,
I
this is
want.
crazy. You wrote a letter to your father. I think a lot of people today cannot even relate to this concept.
Yes. Uh, and then he wrote back, and I remember he said, "You are choosing money over service to the nation." And that is not okay because I think he was a partition kid, very patriotic and stuff,
And very
and
principled, it
very
seems.
principled, very
Hmm.
principled. So I said, so he guilted me. I said, ठीक
Hmm.
है, करते हैं तैयारी. So next 2 months I again prepared, but then I was like, नहीं होगा मुझसे. Like it, I wasn't feeling it, right? So I wrote back
Hmm.
to my mom saying कि यार ये नहीं हो रहा है.
Hmm.
I definitely want to do CAT. So this actually went back and forth because there was no email or phone call, letters.
Hmm.
6 months, three letters back and forth, and finally they said, ठीक है, जो करना है करो. And I
Yeah.
made them a promise that I will only take CAT, I will not take any other exam. And
Okay.
if I go to the ABCs, I will do it. Otherwise, I will do civil services. So that was the pact.
Hmm.
Thankfully, I mean, touch wood, thankfully it
Hmm.
played out. Otherwise,
And
yeah,
it's
maybe I would
amazing you remember the correspondence because we text so frequently. I don't think we remember most of what we say, but it took 6 months, but you remember each of the letters
yeah,
that were written. It's quite fascinating. I don't think like we used to have letters in school. तो जब आप I think IIM में जा रहे थे, I was just going to school. Sorry, we've aged here a little bit. But I think the only place I wrote letters were in school for English exams. I don't
Acha.
think I ever wrote a letter to anyone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we had email by then, and the phone had come. So I was in
Yes.
that era where it was phasing out.
I think we used to write physical letters till the final year of my engineering, and then
Hmm.
we got email. So
Hmm.
then we switched to email, but till
Right.
then, yeah, uh, yeah.
Wow.
So that
Hmm.
was really, I think, got to IMA, then went to PNG,
Hmm.
uh, and PNG I think was good because PNG is a great learning place,
Right.
uh,
And you spent
and
time abroad as well, so maybe you can talk about that and how maybe that path took you to education.
yeah, PNG. See, I come from a middle class, lower middle class family. So even though I always had this thing about kuch alag karna hai, but we had to earn our living. So I joined PNG. PNG
Hmm.
was a great place. We went to Singapore in 2000, and 2000 to 2007. I was there. I was handling the Asia Pacific business. Uh, in 2005, I started to feel that I'm not learning much here and not
Hmm.
having fun, and I really want to do something back in India in education. Like it was clear to me. So, and PNG is a tough company to leave.
Hmm.
So I told
Yes.
my manager कि यार I want to go back and do something, and he was like तेरे को पता नहीं है, why don't you take a sabbatical, don't leave.
Hmm.
So I took a 6 month sabbatical, came back to India, and I did. I taught at one of the B schools in Pune. I
Oh,
ran a summer,
really? Which one?
yeah, Symbiosis,
Oh,
and I
amazing.
ran a summer program for school students by taking some 12 to 15 kids from 4 different schools in Pathankot to Dalhousie. So I was
Hmm.
trying different things in education to say kahan pe, where does my heart lie, and then I realized that in MBA, I felt that the plumbing was already done, so I wasn't really able to make much difference because all
Right.
these people had already kind of been set in their ways.
Hmm.
So it made me realize that if I have to do fundamental work, school is the time, college is too late.
Hmm.
And that experience of the summer camp with those 16 kids, after 10 days, they didn't want to go back home. That was fantastic. And I was clear that school education में मुझे कुछ करना है. And
Hmm.
but the final idea wasn't clear. So Mohit, my manager, called after 6 months कि तूने decide तो किया नहीं है. I have a really good assignment, so you
Hmm.
come back. And me and Smita had read Rich Dad Poor Dad by then, so we knew okay, we need to hit a certain number before there is financial freedom to really do what we love.
Correct.
So I went back saying 2 साल और कर लेते हैं PNG, then I will come back to India and work in education. I couldn't last more than 1 year. So
Hmm.
1 साल के बाद I told Smita, I know we are a little away, but अब नहीं हो पा रहा. I really want to go back and do what I really want to do.
Right.
Uh, so that is when in 2007 we decided to move back, uh, and uh, and I thought I'll come back to India and do something on my own. But then a common friend got me to meet Subhash Chandra of the Z Group,
Right.
and I went. He said हम कुछ education में कर रहे हैं, आप जाके देखिए. So I went to their company Zee Learn. It was called Zee Interactive Learning System at that point. Uh, and I sent him a note saying, I went there. This is what you are doing. This is what you should do. And I came back and started packing up my bags in Singapore to move back to India. 2 weeks later, he calls and says, "आप आके क्यों नहीं करते हो?"
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
so I thought I've been away from India for 7 years. Maybe it's not a bad idea to actually go and learn. I mean, till that time, I wanted to be in education, but I didn't have a clear idea. So I thought it will be
Hmm.
good to just learn the business and the ABC of education. So I came to India. I ran that company for 5 years, from 2007 and to 2012. And then in 2012, I left Z. Uh, and then I went for Vipassana to really figure out मुझे क्या करना है really. And I came back, and then me and Smita had that walk in Akalkot, and we started Lead. So that's really
That's
what
amazing.
got us there. Yeah.
And what did you land on first at Lead? Was it what it is today, or was it completely different? And how did the two of you decide to split roles between the two of you? And what was the dynamic
Okay.
as well?
See, I think I mean, this is, I don't know how far back, but the problem I've always wanted to solve is this disparity between small town India and metros in terms of access to good education. I mean, that
That's
was
a personal problem
personal.
as well.
Correct. Yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
it's personal experience and pain translating into
Into
wanting to do something about it.
correct.
Uh, so first thing we thought, at least I thought, we should open schools in small town
Hmm.
and then provide them access to good
Like go
education.
to Pathankot, open a school and stuff
Correct,
like that.
correct.
Hmm.
So our first school actually was in a village called Areri. It is 30-40 kilometers from Ahmedabad.
Okay.
And actually, Sunil Handa sir gave us the furniture for our first classroom. Uh,
Interestingly, we spoke to Baker's Dozen just before you.
oh, you did?
You'd obviously know
Of
that
course, of course.
Handa sir's daughter is
Yeah.
the founder of that company.
And she was baking that idea around that time.
Yes, correct. Pun not intended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we actually ran 4 5 schools of our own for the first
Hmm.
5 years of our journey, from 2012 all the way to 2017. We were running schools. The
Hmm.
good thing that we did was we continued to have our base in Mumbai and
Okay.
have a team which was developing curriculum. Uh, so it forced us to design content, curriculum, technology for remote operations right from the genesis.
Right.
uh, and I mean, later it actually helped us, but at that time it was that all the good talent is in Mumbai, so let's design here and implement there.
Hmm.
And in after 5 years, what we realized was, again, I think we were in Mumbai, and me and Smita were talking, "Okay, yaar, if we continue on this journey, we are going to basically maybe open 30-40 more schools. Uh, बट इफ यू हैव कमिटेड आवर लाइफ टू दिस कॉज 30-40 स्कूल से कुछ होगा नहीं, मतलब 10,000-12,000 स्टूडेंट्स तक पहुंचेंगे, एंड इंडिया हैज़ 270 million स्टूडेंट्स. तो वी हैव टू लुक एट समथिंग एल्स,
Hmm.
and that got us to start talking to people in the institutional capital world, some of my friends and stuff, and we realized that uh, and one more incident happened. One of our friends' father had set up a school. So he reached out saying, "Hey, I'm hearing that you're doing some good stuff with Lead School. Can we use what you are doing in our school?"
This is back in 2012-13 time
This
frame.
is 2017,
2017. Okay,
5 years
2017.
after our journey, because
Okay.
for,
Okay.
for 5 years we were just running our own schools. And
Oh, okay.
first
So you're
one,
just
and then
running your own schools,
first one,
just
and then
doing.
four, and then five. Uh,
So you're doing something that was really not scalable, technically. Like
yeah,
Smita also said that
yeah,
it was hard to scale.
correct. So I think because we were in that frame when this came, I was like, again, we were talking, "Okay, maybe this is an opportunity because there
Hmm.
are already so many schools which are not doing well. We have developed a system which actually is now working across 6-7 schools. So it's not like this is just one school that we are running with our tender loving care.
Right.
So let's see if other people would be interested in implementing what we have built." Uh, that was like the germ of an idea, and we said, okay, see if somebody wants to fund the initial experiment. We spoke to only 3 or 4 impact funds at that time. Elivar was very taken in by what we were doing, and we said, okay, first year, let's see if 10-15 schools will agree. We got 30. So both of us feel like यहाँ पे कुछ है. uh,
Correct. And
and
and what
then
did they agree to actually? Like what was your value prop to them? So
our value
just
prop
to
was that you have set up a school to provide good education. You're not being able to. That's why you're struggling to grow and have admission. So ultimately, see this idea that in schools you have to first do Saraswati and then Lakshmi comes, right?
hmm,
So schools understood this, but they didn't have the means to implement. So we gave them like a school in a box. कि आप ये implement कर लो. Within a year, you will start to see a difference, and then you can either use it to increase the fees or you can use it to increase students. But ultimately, learning will improve.
and what was this school in a box? If you can like talk about it in a little more detail,
Okay.
what was it exactly?
See, the kind of schools we have gone to, if you look at a classroom, there is basically blackboard and books and chalk,
Hmm.
used to be. And then the school has a lot of registers, and the parent has the report card. That's really schooling. Uh, what we did was we said, if teaching learning has to happen, the classroom has to get transformed. So for the classroom to transform, audiovisual learning ke liye you need a screen.
Right.
For good pedagogy, you need a good lesson plan,
Right.
and for good studying, you also need a good curriculum. So books, lesson plan in a tablet, and audiovisual content on a TV. So that was the classroom solution.
Understood.
And then for the school to know what is happening in each classroom, we created an academic operating system because we in Bombay you needed to know for our own schools.
Hmm.
So what is happening in the classroom with each teacher and with each student, we could figure out at a learning indicator level. And then at home, the child should be able to revise. So there was a student app made, and the parent should
Hmm.
know what is happening. So there was a parent app made. So
Okay.
basically, all the stakeholders, teacher, principal, student, and the parent,
Parent. And you
had a
created the whole
technology.
ecosystem,
We created this
hardware, software,
software.
content,
Correct.
everything.
Correct.
Hmm.
And since we made it for our own schools and we knew it was working, it was now about creating it in a way that other schools could also use it.
Hmm.
So that was
Understood.
the school integrated system that we had built. Uh,
Understand.
so yeah, I think since then, since 2017, it's been basically just rapid adoption. 30, 150, 600, 1200, 1800, 3000, like that. So that was, I think, after that. I mean, if COVID had not happened, we might have grown even faster
Hmm.
because 2 years of school shut down. But since then, it is now about figuring out what are the other flavors of this school integrated system schools need, and keep driving penetration and keep improving learning outcomes for schools.
And you were targeting a notoriously hard market. Everyone says selling to schools is so hard, but the numbers you told me seemed almost like they were compounding without any stopping. So, why do you think, is that a misnomer, or was your product so good that there was pull? Like, why do you think this happened for you?
I mean, I would say that, see, first, the only real innovation that has happened in schools so far was back in 1919 when Shantanu introduced Educom.
Hmm.
I mean, leave aside all the other issues with the company, but the idea that audiovisual learning has to be there in the school, in the classroom, was what he began with, right?
Right.
Uh, our learning when we started our own schools was that it was an incomplete idea because while it put a device in the classroom, it did not give a tool to the teacher to be able to use it seamlessly.
Hmm.
And our big insight was that teaching had to move away from the textbook to a lesson plan because textbook will becomes otherwise the limiting factor of the teaching learning process. uh,
Hmm.
so I think because we were running our own schools, because we were not teachers, because we were not coming from the traditional, we didn't have any of the quote unquote holy cows ki aise
Baggage.
karna hai. No
Hmm.
baggage. We basically started our school, realized first unit test में score कम है, like solve कैसे करें इसको. So I think first principles thinking and just figuring out each problem and how to solve it by looking amongst global best practices and contextualizing it for India. So when we went to the market, actually schools felt like this is new. Like we haven't heard anything like this, right? Because nobody was going and saying, "Okay, you use our system, we commit learning outcome improvement to you."
Hmm.
Till then, everybody was saying, "मेरी बुक ले लो, मेरी बुक ले लो, मैं सैंपल छोड़ देता हूँ, आप देख लीजिए और आपको
We
जो
will
पसंद।"
we will improve your students.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Nobody was saying, and I will commit to delivering learning outcomes. I'm not
Hmm.
making a false promises. So I was
Hmm.
actually making a promise. I was putting my people to help the school deliver, and my product in a couple of years could objectively show, okay, when you start, your students are at X level. Year one, they move 1.5x. Year two, they move 1.8. So that you can measure it by standardized testing. There is no false promise. So I think this was new. Uh, and I would say this was the second real innovation that somebody had got to school. So that was number one. Number two, I also feel that, see, anybody who has set up a school, he is making a promise to his community कि यार मैं आपके बच्चों को अच्छी एजुकेशन दूंगा.
Hmm.
एंड ही इज ट्राइंग डिफरेंट थिंग्स. कभी ये बुक ले लिया, कभी वो बुक लिया, कभी स्मार्ट क्लास लगाया, कभी कुछ किया, कभी कुछ किया. And if they get really good principals and really good teachers, they are also able to deliver. But there is a paucity of good teachers in India. So school owners are looking for that magic pill कि यार ये मेरे को दे दो ताकि मेरी learning outcomes improve हो, so that the promise I've made to the parent is actually upheld. When it doesn't happen, they keep churning from one solution to another. So
Understand.
the solution providers then say, "Array, school owners are fickle."
Right.
But you got to
Hmm.
look at yourself in the mirror. Care, am I providing real difference? Because if you are, then why would a customer move away? There is no reason, right? Because you are helping him deliver on his promise. So again, first principles. I believe that if we deliver on our promise, 80% school owners would stay with you.
Yeah,
There might be 10% who want to keep on hunting for the next bargain and stuff, and
of
so be
course.
it. Every category has those. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
schools are not unique in that. So
correct.
I think because of lack of innovation and because publishing has become a commodity market, there is very high variety seeking, and that's what people then refer
Hmm.
to saying कि loyalty नहीं है, fickleness है, ये है वो है.
Fascinating. I mean, the way you describe your product, it seems like once you're in, there's very high retention. Is that also the case? And that's why your observation on schools not being the way they are described.
Yeah, yeah. See, honestly and thankfully, because I was a school owner, I didn't have this misconception about school owners being bad, because you see people in your own image
Yes.
in this world, right?
Yes.
So
Correct.
I was like, "हम अच्छे हैं तो सब अच्छे हैं,"
Huh.
and thankfully, I have not been proven wrong too many times.
Hmm.
Uh, so I would say that, I mean, just knowing what the school owner needs has actually helped us to a large extent.
And you are not really purely a SaaS solution. You're not purely a hardware solution, not a content solution. How do you sell and scale? So you mentioned those numbers. If you can talk about the flywheel, do you have a team on ground? How does it work? What's the sales motion?
Yeah. So our promise to the school is that if you are, I mean, you opened a school for really two reasons. There could be one or both.
Hmm.
One is you thought school is a great business, so I will
Make
set up
money.
a nice building and stuff and grow. Second is you were wanting to provide great education and also make money. Ultimately, the way to make money in schools is to provide great learning. There is no direct way. Right?
Yeah.
You can do a short term showcase कि मैंने smart class लगा दिया ये वो, but it doesn't sustain.
Hmm.
So if you want to deliver learning outcomes, there are only two ways, right? One is you pay through your nose, get the best teachers in the world, and कर लो. That's possible in metro. That's possible in IB schools.
Yeah.
But for the majority of schools in India, that's not a reality. I mean, small town में teachers availability of really good quality is poor. So teachers also need some empowerment and some enablement. So now, if you want, then this is a solution you can use, which is proven to deliver results now. Uh, so I think that is the starting point, which our salesperson will go and talk to a school. And now it is only a matter of how many schools are comfortable taking a leap to move away from their 50, 30, 40, 20 years of habit of teaching
Hmm.
from the book and blackboard to trusting us and making the leap.
Right.
And then for parents to make the leap, that the fundamental problem today in India is that people think that if I read from a book and
Hmm.
translate it and then complete the chapter and write the answers to the questions at the end of the chapter, and students copy that answers, and I ask the same question in an exam and students answer, learning has happened.
Hmm.
Everybody believes that. Schools believe
Yeah.
that, teachers believe that, parents also believe that. Now to break the myth ke boss, this is not learning.
Hmm.
Ultimately, board exam, comparative exam, life में फट लेगी. You
Hmm.
got to have learning, which is where the child can independently think and express his thoughts in writing. That's
Hmm.
really learning. No?
Yeah.
But that means that if a child is now transitioning from the traditional system to our system in grade 5, he has to undo 5 years of
Years of.
accumulated
Hmm.
habit. So the first time when the child starts to write, he will make mistakes. His grammar would be awry, his spelling mistakes will be there, and parents expect perfect answer. So they will go to the school and say, "अरे मेरा बच्चा तो अच्छा कर रहा था, अब नहीं कर रहा है."
Hmm.
So I think
Although the
ultimately our
benchmark
challenge.
and the measuring has changed.
So our biggest barrier is habit and perception change. That what you were doing actually was not right, and
Hmm.
not a lot of people are willing to admit that what they were doing was not right.
That's a very
And this
hard
is
sell,
the
actually.
It's a very hard sell. And therefore school owners who believe that ultimately this is going to give me success,
Yeah.
go for it.
This is the tough medicine that you have to have.
Yeah. And
And
again,
you describe yourself as a school owner, but I see a lot of teacher vibes and phrases that you're using because you very fundamentally understood what learning is. So that was quite nice. I mean, when you were describing what actually learning is, what is a student being able to think and write, I think that was quite cool.
but I have been a teacher. Like when in our first school, I have taught pre-primary, I have taught primary, I've
Hmm.
also taught middle, I've taught leadership to middle school students. So yeah, uh, I mean, teaching is so much fun. Yeah.
It's visible. And so, you scaled and then the pandemic happened. Uh, Maybe just before the pandemic, you also started raising money. So, what was that journey like? Because you had been bootstrapping till then, you
Yeah.
were just scaling your own schools. What was that switch? Was there a transition? Was it different? Did it put pressure? Was raising money the way you thought it would be?
First 5 years, I think no salary. We basically went all in, put all our money into the first school and then the next three schools and all of that. And then I think 5 years, that was truly where we were doing what we wanted, because
Yeah.
there was nobody to answer to except our parents in the school. Then when we realized that we've got to scale through partnering with other schools, that's when Elivar came on board. I think again we were very fortunate, and also it helped that we were kind of intentional about who we wanted to bring on board. We only went to some four or five impact VCs at that time,
Hmm.
and with Elivar, I think what we loved was that they understood our work. I mean, they were the only ones who came and visited our school,
Hmm.
sat in a classroom, saw the work that we were doing, and they saw that if somebody can productize good schooling and scale, then this is it. Because before us, they must have met 100 education companies, uh, and they saw something. So right from the day one, no, there was alignment on purpose.
Hmm.
Okay, because they have worked a lot with the low income communities through their microfinancing companies, right? So they understood
Right.
those communities really well, that the importance of education they attached.
Hmm.
Uh, so I think we didn't experience a lot of change. It was just getting used to having now a formal board and all of that stuff. Uh, the pandemic was a big one, because we had scaled a decent bit by that time, and
Correct.
we had just launched our Series C in January.
January
First
of 20.
January of 2020, yeah.
Yes. Hmm.
And the first few months are based on building collateral and all of that stuff, right? So
Correct.
just when we were about to launch, the PM announced that we are going to on lockdown. So we had this meeting के रुक जाएं या आगे बढ़ें. And whenever in life we've had this question, we've always chosen आगे बढ़ो देखते हैं.
Yeah.
And we said बढ़ते हैं आगे. And yeah, I think that was a tough period, because getting into pandemic, nobody knew that it's going to last for this long, right? We thought
Yeah.
schools would be closed for 3-4 months, and schools
Yeah.
have 2 years.
Hmm.
2 years is crazy long. Uh,
I
and
initially
we were,
thought 3-4 weeks. Actually, I was like, okay, this is
I thought
okay.
3 months, क्योंकि my sense was ये लोग they will use the summer break,
Hmm.
because March था, April
Right.
1 month normally schools are open, then they go on summer break. So my
Right.
thing was after summer break in June they will open.
Be back. Hmm.
But anyways, uh, I think the toughest thing was on 14th March, somebody called me and said the schools are going to get shut down. What do we do? And we had about, if I recall, 130 schools already running, and 500 new were coming on board. So I said, don't worry,
Wow.
we will not allow schools to or students to suffer. Entum karwate hain online, and then we will start the schools online. They said, how we will do it? I said, I don't know. This was Thursday. Thursday we got the whole team, and I said, "यार Monday को ना I want all the schools online." They
Hmm.
were like, "Hi." I said, "निकालो तरीका." Friday we again had a huddle, and they said, "Parent app के through करते हैं."
Hmm.
Monday ko we had a working product,
Wow.
and so Monday 150 schools went online, and then April 1 600 schools were running on. We were running the largest online school in the country at that time, uh, and I think we built an online school product through the 2 years of COVID, and then we dismantled all of it on Feb of 2022. So that journey, I think a lot of product investment when their schools were going through their whole challenges of parent not paying
Of course.
fees. So that those two
It was a
years we
tough
had
time
to,
in that whole ecosystem. Like
yeah,
everybody was having pain, I'm sure.
yeah. So we had to actually lean forward and support a lot of our schools. I mean, it had an impact on our cash flows because schools were having a struggle. But I think what it did was those who stayed with us also, it told them our character, that
Yeah.
we would be with them irrespective of whatever challenges. But I mean, I think those 2 years of COVID definitely put a small break into our penetration, because a lot of schools were struggling for survival, so
Hmm.
they didn't have any space for innovation.
Of course.
And then post COVID, thankfully, it took one more year of everybody trying to get off on their feet. Some of the admissions that they had lost, for it to come back, parents had migrated to their native towns for them to come back. So all of that happened between academic year 22 23. So 23 24 actually has been the real normal year post COVID.
Hmm. Wow. It has been long.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask two questions. One was, who is your target school type? Is it a board or a particular kind of school? And the second is, um, do you franchise or do you let them keep their brand and you just provide them your technology? How does it work from a business model perspective?
Yeah. See, when we began, we were focusing on the affordable private schools, which would typically be between the 15,000 annual fee to 30,000 annual fee.
Okay.
But now we
And how
have
many of these are there in the country, like broadly? If,
there would be around 70, 80,000 of them.
okay.
But now we have expanded our product portfolio. So we have one solution for schools which are between 30,000 to 50,000 fees.
Okay.
That's called Pinnacle, and then we have something for 10,000 to 15,000, which is called Propel. So there is Propel,
Okay.
Lead, and Pinnacle, so
Pinnacle.
that we
Okay.
are able to cater to the needs of the different fee
And you're not
segments.
going after like IBs and more expensive private schools as of now.
IBs, no,
Hmm.
but with the Pearson K-12 acquisition, we're also now trying to create solutions for the 50,000 plus fee schools.
Understand.
Yeah.
Understand. And what's your commercial structure with these schools? How does it work?
See, we partner with the school on a per student per year basis,
Okay.
and and it also aligns us because as the school grows admissions, or as the school grows, we also grow with them,
Hmm.
uh, and we provide everything within that per student per year fees.
Understand. And the school is called a lead school, or do they have their name and they're just powered by you?
Yeah, see, in the school, franchising doesn't really work because
Right.
ultimately the school is run by a trust or a society,
Hmm.
and they own the name.
Hmm.
So if you give them the name, there is no way of getting it back.
Hmm.
Uh, this was my big learning from Zee Learn
Hmm.
in trying to franchise K-12.
Very interesting.
So the way to do it is to become like a knowledge or an academic partner. So the all the
Understand.
schools are called powered by Lead, but they
Powered
retain
by
the
lead.
name. Yeah.
Understand. And where are you today? What does lead look like? What sort of scale are you at? Where are you present in India?
Actually, we're present all across. I mean, we have a school very near the line of control near Pakistan. We have a
Hmm.
school near the Burma border, near the China border in Nagaland. So I think the spread is now across
Amazing.
all states. Uh,
So you
but
went ahead of Pathankot also.
my mom is from Bhadrawas, so I can't say I went ahead. I just went to where she came from. Yeah. But yeah, I think our intentional has always been to work with the schools in small towns.
Hmm.
So that's actually led to the spread. In fact, today also we have only 5 to 8% schools in like a Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai. Most of them are in tier two, tier three cities.
Amazing. And what sort of scale, Sumit? Like number of schools, number of
Number of
students?
Yeah. See, I think with the Pearson acquisition, we now are serving about 8,500 schools.
Okay.
Within that, around 3,200 would be using the full integrated system. Around 200 would be using a lighter version of the integrated system, and the others are using the Pearson books and curriculum, which we intend to slowly upgrade to a deeper partnership. But yeah, I think the real deep access is to these 3,400 odd schools, where about 1.4 million students come. And then the extended reach is to 5 million students across 8,500.
That's amazing skill and great impact. I think the switch you turned after 2017 has really played out.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think some of these bets, frankly, when they play out, they look good.
yeah, they do.
Yeah.
How do you feel being an edtech entrepreneur from the crazy highs of 21, 22? maybe 20 also, to now I think it's everyone wants to do AI, no one wants to do ed tech. How do you feel? I mean, these things are all hype, I know, as an investor, but as
Yeah.
an entrepreneur, what is your view on the ecosystem? What is your view on the sector? Should people be building in it?
Well, see, I think if you just stay away from the uh, crests and troughs of the cycle, and I don't know whether you recall, during COVID, I was continuously saying that this hype of online is short lived, because
Mhm.
fundamentally, if you understand students as a teacher or a parent, you know that for learning to happen, at least for children below 14, you
Yeah,
need two things. One is a peer group, and second is a concerned adult. uh,
yeah,
Self learning for children under 14 is a rare phenomena. It is not the majority.
right.
But during COVID, because it was a forced environment, everybody had to move to online. So people thought this is the new world.
Hmm.
And I've written a lot during that time. I've spoken to people, कि यार ये short lived है. I mean, as a
Hmm.
parent, you know it's not going to work. But of course, nobody was listening, right? Because everybody was. Uh, so so actually, still nobody is listening, because I'm saying कि this is not surprising. I mean, why are you surprised that post COVID, post schools opening up, nobody wants online? Because parents don't believe in that stuff.
Right.
Uh, but people are saying कि no, something fundamental has shifted. So see, if you chase the latest wave, then you are going to be always chasing. But if you stand at the shore and just observe, you know what is real and what is not real.
Hmm.
My take on this is a little very simple. See, fundamentally 270 million kids in India go to school. Out of them, 130 million go to private schools.
Hmm.
Whether you look at the national curriculum framework, whether you look at the new education policy, whether you look at some of the good schools in the world, there are some fundamentals, which is learning has to be multimodal,
Hmm.
and learning has to be personalized for
Right.
great learning to happen. There is, I mean, you cannot dispute this.
Hmm.
Now, the question is, how fast will Indian schools move to that reality?
Hmm.
uh, we are playing a role in moving schools to that reality.
Right.
Currently, not many schools are in that reality. I mean, if you leave out the IB and the top end schools and some schools that work with us, everyone is still in the 1 is to 40 traditional learning mode.
Ratio, not multimodal, just one
Correct,
one
correct.
way. Hmm.
So now it is my job to make it affordable, make it accessible, make it easy, and we will continue chipping at the problem.
Right.
It might take 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Maybe by 2047, Viksit Bharat, we would have gotten there. But it is a problem which is there to be solved, and there is a real need. So
Yeah.
there might be a challenges in the how to solve the problem. There is no doubt in my mind about
That
the
this is the
need.
problem.
This is the problem, and there is Lakshmi if you solve it.
Hmm.
So I mean that is on school. Same thing is in college. I mean, college there is the larger issue of supply also not being there.
Hmm.
So if you pick the right problem, you persist with it for the long term, there are enough opportunities in edtech. But if you sit in a office and say yaar abhi kya kare,
Hmm.
so then you end up making like a online co-curricular class, online this class, this.
Hmm.
It doesn't work, because ultimately you got to understand that learning happens at the intersection where it's called the zone of proximal development,
Hmm.
where what gets connected to what is new introduced, and the teacher demonstrates how to make that leap, and then the student practices that leap in front of that teacher. That is where learning happens. So
Hmm.
that's where the classroom is the laboratory. Now you got to
Hmm.
empower teachers to do it, whether it is in school or college. And if you do it, there are big businesses to be made. If you don't do it, then of course it won't work.
And do you I think you like mentioned a lot of interesting things. I am also assimilating it, especially the demonstrated leap, which is learning. It's very fascinating framework. Uh, do you think because of this and the process of learning, because the underlying inputs, which are student, teacher, which make a schoolwork, is edtech not venture scalable, or does it have to take its own path? Like I used to always worry that you can't blitz scale education because it's limited by the yearly cycle. For example, do you
Yeah.
think that is a reality as well?
Yeah. See, I think education is a big opportunity.
Hmm.
The pool of capital is not education's problem.
Hmm.
Like education's problem is that a child is not learning, the parent is paying.
Hmm.
You have to solve for it,
Yes.
and you can make a good margin while solving for it. Now
Yeah.
there'll be some people who will see value in it and want to invest. There are some people who would not see value in it and don't want to invest. They might have other opportunities. That is the financial words problem.
Right.
Now, whether I mean, Elivar saw potential, they have got like really good return.
Hmm.
And then Westbridge has come on board. We've got good capital, and so I think people who see potential, long-term potential, uh, would be great investors. And it's not like it's going to take ages. I mean,
Right.
we have scaled from 5 schools in 2017-18
Right.
to 8,500 schools in 2024. It's not bad growth.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So, I mean, if we can do it, then clearly it proves the point that school ed tech is scalable if you do it the right way.
Hmm. That makes sense. And what's next? What do the next 5 years look like for you? Like, what's your curriculum for yourself that you have to execute for the next
Yeah.
5 years?
See, what I realized, one insight I got over the last 5 years was that curriculum is like religion, right?
Hmm.
Everybody has their favorite. Ultimately,
Hmm.
everybody has to go to God, but everybody has their own path. तो
Yeah.
यहाँ पे भी everybody has to achieve learning outcome, but everybody has their favorite path कि
Hmm.
मैथ ऐसे पढ़ाना चाहिए या ऐसे पढ़ाना चाहिए या
Hmm.
इंग्लिश में ऐसा होना चाहिए. And I have realized that the futility of fighting that war, the
Hmm.
war of faith is not to be fought.
Right.
So I'm increasingly saying that if everybody has to move to multimodal, but everybody has their favorite path, that let me offer that path to them. Why
Hmm.
fight कि मेरे वाला path choose करो?
Huh.
So I have to now expand my portfolio to help different kinds of schools graduate to multimodal. Their barrier
Understand.
might be their favorite curriculum. Their barrier might even be pricing. So now I have to just keep on chipping at this problem by understanding where is the barrier, solving for it. And I'm at a good place because I understand curriculum, I understand tech, I understand schools. There are very few
Hmm.
people who sit at the intersection of these three things. Uh, so I think for the next 5 years, like the next 5, 10, 15, because we've got to get to 60,000 schools.
Yeah.
Uh, this might sound boring, but this is what we have to do. Just keep on
Boring
reaching out
is
to.
how companies are built, by the way.
Boring is great, yeah. So just keep on reaching
Yeah.
out to more and more schools, keep on
Hmm.
delivering good learning outcomes, and yeah, that's really what we have to do.
Awesome. Sumit, so we'll close with the final question why we call this Founders Unfiltered. What's one piece of unfiltered feedback or advice you got during your journey as an entrepreneur that changed your perspective, changed your view, and lives with you today as well?
Uh, Actually, it happened in PNG. I mean, I wasn't even an entrepreneur there.
Okay.
Shirish was my manager's manager.
Hmm.
So the story is that we all went to Singapore, and after a year, they realized they had moved too many of us. So now
Hmm.
there was a process of cutting down, and everybody knew that we didn't know what's going to happen. So every day, somebody would be called into a room, spoken to, and then all of us would go down the elevator, and then they would say whether they're in or out. So one day I was called, and
Ah.
Shirish calls me and says, "Sumit, your name was discussed. I know the last year has been this, but there was a lot of work, good work that you've done back in India, and there were a lot of people who were advocating for you. So great, you have a great career ahead in PNG." So I was like, "Oh,"
Hmm.
and but then he said, "But one thing you want to remember is that." Your name should never be discussed. You should be always be an automatic choice. And it
Hmm.
hit me that it's a great point, right? You've got to have your performance at a level where it's never a question. uh, you should always be somebody's automatic choice. And I think it helped me because after that I did quite well in PNG. But even in my entrepreneurial journey, whether it is dealing with my investors, whether it is dealing with the media, whether it is dealing with my auditors, I always want to be at a place where if somebody calls them in my absence, there's never a question.
Hmm.
I think it's a very good bar of internal governance that you set for yourself. So that has stayed with me throughout, and I think it has helped us in good stead because while throughout ups and downs and stuff, you will, at least, I think we have done business in a way that people would love to work with us and back us and say good things about us, even if they don't want to, even if they don't work with us. Yeah, because the equity of an entrepreneur is his reputation, not the money he can raise, right? Because the money he raises depends on his reputation. So a reputation is earned through never having a question against your name. That was wonderful for me.
That's awesome. It's great, great advice for, I think, everybody. Always be an automatic choice.
Yeah.
Mm. Awesome, Sumit. On that note, we'll close this. Thank you so much for educating us about education. And it was a fun conversation. We hope you
Thanks,
had fun
Aviral.
too.
Pleasure talking to you. Thank you.